Hello, good afternoon, or good morning, or good evening, depending on your location. You're welcome to today's program. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on your location. Welcome to this afternoon or evening or morning program, depending where you are watching me from. All right. You are welcome to today's program. You are welcome to today's program. We shall be looking at type 2 diabetes questions that we are going to be answering together. So today is going to be a sort of diabetics forum. There are a couple of questions regarding type 2 diabetics diets that we are going to answer together. So I hope those questions may or may not apply to you, but we're going to answer it together regarding type 2 diabetics diet. Okay? So that is why I titled this afternoon or morning or evening program, type 2 diabetics diagnosis, your questions and answers. All right. So it may or may not apply to you, but we're going to answer it. And at the same time, I'm going to also have a caveat in discussing about changing your diet, foods to avoid, controlling type 2 diabetes with diet, moderations, and most important thing about changes. So I'm going to be discussing those two topic. While I'm answering questions, I'm also going to be deviating and answering and also discussing about if you need to change your diet as a type 2 diabetics. All right. So it's very, very important we answer those questions. They might be key to you maintaining a very good sugar levels and at the same time living a healthy life. As I said, those questions may or may not apply to you, but we are going to answer those questions and then you could see if there's any way either now or in the future it may apply to you. All right. The first question is all right. Does your diet need to change with type 2 diabetes diagnosis? So in essence, if you are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, do you need to change your diet? Okay. Do you need to change your diet? All right. So, sorry. Kindly indicate where you are watching from. Evening label IV Snips. You are welcome. This is my first time to see you on our program. Where are you watching from, label? Can you tell me your location, where you're watching from, and are you a diabetic? Because this is the first time to see you, the name. This is the first time to see the name here. So where are you watching from? What is your location? All right. So while we are waiting for everyone to come online, the first question, what I will be doing today on today's video, we're going to be answering key questions regarding type 2 diabetics diet. And at the same time, I'm going to also be discussing about dieting also. So I find it very still confused that most of you still find it very difficult to deal with dieting and controlling your sugar. Because when I open my page and open all the inboxes, it's all about dieting. What kind of food should I eat? What kind of food should I avoid? I'm finding it very difficult to cope up with my sugar level. So that is why I see most of the time I keep discussing about dieting. All right. Lebo is watching from Botswana. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Are you diabetic? Lebo. Are you diabetic? Okay. So the first question we are going to ask, first of all, before I go into that question, Okay, dietary changes are helpful. They are helpful in managing your type 2 diabetes, or even though type 1 diabetes, or even though pre-diabetics, or even the gestational diabetics. Dietary changes are helpful in managing your diabetes, but you don't have to change your diet you don't have to change everything at once. All right, you don't have to change your diet everything at once. It's a gradual process that you have to phase certain food out and then start phasing the food that you required in. Because once you are diagnosed with either type 1 or type 2 diabetes, you're still at a state of shock. You don't have a clue. So you're going to be phasing in those food that you don't require out, and then phasing in the ones you require in. It's a gradual process. Okay. So that is why. Okay. All right. Okay. For how long, labor? For how long have you been type 2 diabetics? For how long? And then Ponto, Ponso, Mfuru. How are you? This is the first time to see you, Mfuru. This is the first time to see you here. Where are you watching from? And Lebo, for how long have you been living with type 2 diabetics? Lebo, Pontu from Leteto. Okay, you're welcome. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that dietary changes are essentials. They are helpful in managing either of your diabetes. But you don't have to change your diet entirely at once. As I said, tried to explain before, it's a gradual process. Okay, you gradually start phasing out those food that you are not allowed to eat and start phasing in those food that you are allowed to eat. So you don't have to go home at once. You are diagnosed with diabetes right now and you go home and start phasing everything out. It's a gradual process because at that particular day, you are still in shock. So you're going to be gradually phasing out certain food out and then phasing in things that you're allowed to eat. So once your recent diagnosis of type 2 diabetes may leave you feeling overwhelmed, as I said, you're going to be shocked. There's a lot of information that you need. Okay. So you may get random advice from friends and neighbors. It can also be hard for you to sort out all those three things because being diagnosed the first time, overwhelmed, shock, and then speechless. So you'll be having different ideas from different family members, friends on how to deal with it. So now food choices, okay, and then your eating patterns can play a big part in managing your type 2 diabetics. There's no one perfect way to eat, okay? As I was trying to say in terms of even treating your diabetes, between you and your friend, there is no any specific way tailored that doctors should treat diabetics. There is no any compulsory way that says this is the way you have to treat diabetes. Doctors have different ways and means of handling diabetic issues. And that is why I said, if your friend is having a different treatment, you shouldn't compare it with yours because there are other factors that are taken into consideration before starting your treatment. So the same thing applies to the kinds of food you eat. In terms of food choices and what you eat, okay, they play a major role in managing your diabetes. And there is no one perfect way to eat. There's no one perfect way to say this is the way you have to eat constantly. There are different kinds of food out there, okay? You have to put certain things into considerations. So the way I eat might not be the same way you eat, okay? But at the end, we might be driving to the same point, all right? Now, there are general eating patterns that may help to keep your blood sugar level low. Since there is no one straight pattern that says you must eat this way, okay? But there's a general eating pattern that everybody have to abide by. Okay, I've said it several times in terms of your portion control or your plate size. That one is constant. Portion control plays also a vital role, even though there is no one perfect way that says all of us must eat this way. But there's one rule that still stands, that is the portion control, the plate size. Every doctor is going to tell you to reduce the amount of food you eat. You have to take into consideration the size of the food you eat because of the carbohydrate content in them. Okay, so remember that dietary changes are not the only approach to managing diabetes. Okay, diabetes is a complex and chronic illness. Okay, sometimes dietary changes are not enough. All right. That doesn't mean you don't try it hard enough. So even though you are using dietary means to control your sugar level and you're not getting those results that you expected, that doesn't mean you should give up. As I said, there are people that are not on medications, but they are controlling and living a normal life with their sugar level remain persistent, constant. Now they are not on medications. They are doing exercise. But you cannot control, even though you're not on medication, exercise is not alone for you to have a stable and control diabetes. And that is the point I'm trying to make, I'm trying to make that diabetes is a complex chronic illness. Okay. Sometimes dietary changes are not enough. So even though I'm trying to also extrapolate it to exercise, even though you are exercising, you're not on medication, exercise is not alone for you to have a stable sugar level. You are exercising, you must balance it with a healthy, balanced diet. The same thing applies to dietary changes. When you change your food patterns, your eating habit, and start eating healthy, balanced diet, that is not enough. You must complement it with exercise to achieve that result that you need. Okay? So for many people, dietary changes are a good place to start. But also, there are some other things that are supposed to be done to complement that dietary changes. So that is the point I'm trying to pass along. Okay. So now that I've finished my intro, there are questions. Okay. There are questions that we need to answer. Like I said, this particular video I'm going to do today is going to be a kind of question and answer. Okay. They are key. They may or may not apply to you. They may or may not apply to you now. Okay. They may or may not apply to you now, but maybe in the future it may apply to you. But at the same time, there are questions that are key. There are questions that are key to managing diabetics. So do you guys understand my intro? Okay. Now let's answer the first question. Let's answer the first question. While I'm discussing this topic, if you have any question, please feel free to ask that question. If you have any question, feel free to ask me your questions. All right. While I'm discussing, feel free to send your questions on the comment section. All right. Now, before I start answering those questions, I'm going to place this link. There's a link I'm going to put on the comment section here. Okay. We have a link. That is the link that I'm sharing now. Okay. You have to use this link. For those that want to join the program live now, if you want to come on live video and ask your question or say something, you can use this link that I posted now. Okay. Open it in your browser, on your phone, on your laptop, or your iPad, and then follow the instruction on how to join the program live. This link can only work when I'm live. When I'm not more live, the link is not going to work. So for anybody who wants to call me now, want to join the program live video now, to ask their questions or to contribute to the program, can use that link too. Okay. Who is this? Matthew Patterson. Who is the what in this program? Nobody uses F word here. I don't know where you come from. So I don't know who the hell is this. Just some people are just so now you can go and have it live. I don't know who the hell is this. Regina, you're welcome. I'm trying to, this guy here, I don't know, maybe he's mental. I'm trying to, you're welcome. Just hold on a little bit. I'm trying to, I don't know why this is not going. This is supposed to go. Hold on. I'm going to join you guys. Just a minute. I don't know who is this guy from nowhere using an F word. We don't use F word on this page. It's against Facebook policy. I'm trying to block that guy for violating the rules. Just excuse me a little bit. Somebody is using, I don't know who is that guy. I'm trying to get a, right. Okay. Okay. It's out. Okay. I think I've taken care of. I've taken care of. All right. So let's get back to, I can't see, I think I've removed that comment there. Just a minute, I'm trying to all right. Okay. So let's get back. Sorry about that. Somebody is violating the rule, and so I have to delete block. As soon as the comment come in, I have to block that person. It's okay now. Right. So let's return back to what we were discussing before. Regina, you're welcome. I think I've what I was trying to say before about the link. I posted a link for those that wants to join the program live. I've posted a link in there. Okay, it's for those who wants to join live. So now let's get back to what we were discussing before. All right. Okay, so the first question we are going to ask now, because this is kind of a question and answer. The first question we are going to ask now is, do you have to change your diet? Okay, let's answer this question. All right, I'm going to okay. Does your diet need to change with a type 2 diabetes diagnosis? We're going to answer that first question. Does your diet need to change with a type 2 diabetes diagnosis? Okay. Now, to answer that question, okay, yes, your diet need to change. Okay, but you don't need to change it all at once. Say, for instance, you go to the hospital now. You go to your doctor, and it says your test come back and you are type 2 diabetics. Now, there's going to be a kind of tutorial. The doctor is going to go sit with you and try to educate you what diabetes is all about. He might not go in details, but he might spend another 30 minutes trying to tell you about diabetics, the kinds of food you're going to eat and avoid, things to do, just briefly, just to bring you up to date. Normally, the doctor is going to issue a paper. On that paper, he's going to tell you avoid this food and eat this type of food. Okay? So the simple answer, yes, your diet needs to change. But there's a caveat. Since this is your first time to be diagnosed with diabetics, all right, your diet have to be, those food that you are not allowed to eat have to be phased out gradually. You phase them out gradually and then start phasing in the things you're allowed to eat. So for instance, you go to your doctor's office and they say you're diabetic. You don't need to rush home immediately and start throwing everything out, because first of all, you're overwhelmed or you don't even have a clue what diabetes is all about. You're trying to figure out what diabetes is all about. Okay, and they give you a sheet of paper that says eat this type of food and avoid this type of food. So your diet is going to change, but it has to be a gradual process. You have to start phasing out those things you are not advised to stay away from them, and then start phasing in the things you're allowed to eat. Now, dieting alone cannot do the magic. Okay, dieting alone cannot do the magic. You still have to add things to that dieting. So it is not just food alone, okay? Exercise is very important to that changing your diet, all right? Stress management also is very important. You have to try to, as much as you can, to reduce your stress, because remember, stress also spike up your sugar level. So it is not just eating a healthy, balanced diet alone. Exercise have to come in, okay? Now, stress management also have to come in. Sleeping very well have to come in. And then your medications have to come in to complement your changing your diet. All right? These have to work hand by hand so that you achieve the adequate result of maintaining a stable, balanced sugar diet. Okay? You don't need to change everything at once. Think about current habits that you are doing that is not helpful, and then stop them, and then try to consider other habits that have to have a positive effect in stabilizing your sugar level. Okay? So yes, your diet have to change. You don't need to change everything at once. It's gradually, you have to phase certain things out and phase certain things in. So does your diet need to change with a type 2 diabetes diagnosis? The answer is yes. Okay? So the answer is yes. You have to limit the type of drinks you drink. There are certain drinks you have to drop, or you have to limit the consumption of them. You have to identify what are those foods that are high in carbohydrates and the more of fiber. So, but the simple answer is yes, you have to change your diet, but it has to be phased in gradually. Okay? You have to phase in gradually to answer that question. All right, so I'm going to remove that, and we're going to go to comment section. We have Diane, you're welcome. Okay, you are welcome. So to answer that question that I just pasted, okay, to answer that question, okay, to answer that question, this is what it's all about. And let's go to number 2 question. Let's go to number 2 question. Okay. Number 2 question is, let me see what I can. Number 2 question is, do you need to stop eating certain food to manage type 2 diabetes? Do you need to stop eating certain food to manage type 2 diabetes? Okay. Now, do you need to eat, do you need to stop eating certain food to manage type 2 diabetics? That is the second question. Managing type 2 diabetics, okay, is all about overall eating habit, overall eating habits, okay? To manage your type 2 diabetes, I've told you guys, understanding dieting, okay, will play about 50 to 60% of your diabetic, take away 60%, 50% or 60% of your diabetic issue. Dieting is key to stabilizing your sugar level and managing it properly. So managing type 2 diabetes is all about overall eating pattern or habits. But it may also help you to avoid or limit certain food if possible. Okay? If you cannot avoid it, limit the consumption of that particular food. If you have type 2 diabetics. All right? If you find it very difficult to avoid, as I've tried to say, limit the consumption. That is the second option. If you can avoid it for the betterment of your health. Okay? There are food you have to avoid. There's no any options of limiting because of the high content of the carbohydrate in it, or if there's too much cholesterol in it, okay, or if it contains too much sugar. And I'm going to give you guys an example. All right? There are certain food you have to avoid totally. You don't even need to come near them. One is ice cream. If you have diabetics, you're going to stay away from ice cream. If you have diabetes, you have to avoid it with all costs because it's all about sugar in that thing. It contains high content of sugar. Another thing you have to avoid totally, that you don't have an option than to stay away from it, is soda drinks. Soda drinks, all this juice, you have to stay away from them. They contain too much sugar and carbohydrate and calories in them. So if you have type 2 diabetes, soda drinks, you have to drop it properly. Even, let me just tell you some guys, there are certain schools now, secondary schools, primary schools, that soda drinks are not allowed in schools because of the high content of sugar, carbohydrate, and calories. And then see that in those schools, children are getting diabetes or they're adding more weight. There are certain schools in North America here that soda drinks are not allowed in that schools, just to tame down the high occurrence of diabetes in children. So you see, ice cream, soda drinks are things, if you have diabetes, there's no options of choice. You have to avoid it. The only time you can even think of taking soda drinks is when you have hypoglycemia. If you have hypoglycemia, your sugar level suddenly drop below the normal level and you start feeling the symptoms of hypoglycemia, that you can't even recognize your environment, you are shaking, you are fainting. That is when you have to treat that symptoms of hypoglycemia by boosting up your sugar level. That is when you can even think of drinking a soda drink in order to boost up your sugar level. So do you need to stop eating certain foods to manage type 2 diabetes? Yes, you need to. If you cannot avoid it, you limit it. But as I said, there are certain food that you have to avoid. There is no any options of choice. Limit. Okay? For me, I can't even remember years when I have taken ice creams. I can't even remember which years. It have been years. I don't even know whether ice cream is existing because it's something I have to stay away from it. I can't even go near it. Because once you're diabetic, these are certain things you have to stay away from. So do you need to stop eating certain food to manage? The answer is yes. All right? The answer is yes. Yes, club soda is different. I've talked to you guys about the club soda. Okay, you can use club soda. I've talked to you guys about club soda. Okay, club soda is carbonated drinks. Okay, yeah, club soda contains no carbohydrate or sugar or anything in it. Yeah, club soda. But other soda drinks, you have to avoid it. Club soda, yes. I'm talking about soda drinks, beverages that contain a high content of carbohydrate and sugar in them. But club soda is okay. All right, so let's go to number. Grace, you're welcome. All right. So let's go to number 3 question. Yetunde, you are also welcome. Happy Easter. Happy Easter Wednesday. Grace, Diane. Okay. So let's go to number 3 question. Let's go to number 3 question, which is number 3 question is, can you control type 2 diabetics with diet alone? For those that have joining us now, okay, this is our 3rd question. Okay, this is our 3rd question. The first question, this is the first question. Okay, let me just, can I change it here? For those that are joining us now, this is the first question. We've answered that question already. Okay, that's the first question. Does your diet need to change with type 2 diabetics? You guys have to wait. When I download the video, you can see the answer to that question. And let's go to number 2 question. This is the number 2 question. I've answered that question. Do you need to stop eating certain food to manage type 2 diabetics? That is the second question. Now we are on the 3rd question. This is the 3rd question. Can you control type 2 diabetes with diet alone? That is the 3rd question. Okay. For those that are joining us now, Stacy says, can a diabetic person use sweeteners instead of sugar? Stacy, I think this is the first time to see you here, because that name doesn't look familiar. I know, because maybe you are not constant. You are not constant, because we've talked about sweeteners along very much of the time. Stacy, where are you watching from? Because you didn't. Stacy, where are you watching from? And then I'll answer your question. While I'm waiting for Stacy to tell me the location. She asked a question. Can a diabetic person use sweeteners instead of sugar? I've answered that question. Botswana, okay. If I'm not mistaken, this is your first time to be here, because this name is not familiar here. And then, yeah, this is your first time, if I'm not mistaken. You're welcome. Okay, you asked a question. This is your question. Can a diabetic person use sweetener instead of sugar? The answer is yes, but there is a caveat. The answer is twofold: yes and no. Let me start with yes. The yes answer is going to be the opposite of the yes answer is going to be the opposite of the no answer. Can you use a sweetener instead of a sugar? As for a diabetic, the answer is yes. You can use sweetener only in one condition: to substitute for sugar. To make sure that that sweetener you are using, everything listed on that sweetener must be 0.00000%. Everything listed on that box for sweetener must be 0. That is 1. Then look underneath the content where it is listed. Okay. As I said, manufacturers now have devised a means. They've noticed that people are running away from anything that contains sugar. So they will tell you, you see everything 0, calorie 0, carbohydrate 0, protein 0, and then 0 sugar in it. And then you are jumping up that, okay, I can use it. But you did not read the underlining below it. You see the fine print that contains added flavor, or it contains added flavor. Okay. It contains added flavor. So even though that sweetener says everything is 0.0000%, but look at underneath the fine print. Just the same underneath, you see where it says what is the ingredient on the ingredient. What that sweetener is made of? You see added flavor. If it says added flavor, you can now not use it, even though it says 0.00%. If it says natural flavor, then you go ahead and use it. But if it says 0.00%, calorie 0, protein 0, carbohydrate 0, sugar 0, and then you look at the ingredients, it says added flavor, then stay away from it. Because that added flavor contains sugar or carbohydrates. So they try to disguise it for you to buy their product, but on the ingredient, they tell you it has added flavor. If it says added flavor, then don't use it. If it says natural flavor, that's a different thing. Now, another thing you have to understand, most of these manufacturers now don't use the word sugar. They don't use the word sugar anymore. They use another name. There are other names they will print in that ingredients, but it's the same thing as sugar. So when you're reading at the ingredients, you didn't see anything sugar, but there's a word in there that you don't even understand. But that word, because you are concentrated, you are looking where it says sugar and you didn't see sugar in the ingredient. But knowing that there's a word there that you don't know the meaning, that word is sugar. So when looking at the ingredients, okay, and you see a word that you don't understand, use your phone to Google it to know the meaning of that word, to see if it is sugar. So manufacturers are using different ways to push their product out. So that is why I said, okay, that is why I said, yes, you can use it with sweetener. And I also say that it's also no. So you see that I've answered both questions. You can only use it if it says 0%, everything there's 0%, and there's nothing like added flavor. If there's nothing like added flavor in that ingredients, you go ahead and use it. But if you see added flavor, even though it says 0.00%, you stay away from it. And if you see a word in that ingredients that you don't understand what the meaning, use your phone and Google it immediately to see if it's sugar, because they don't want to use the word sugar in that ingredient. Because when you see sugar, you say, no, I'm not going to buy it. So they use another word, but it's the same thing as sugar. All right. So you see that I've answered both questions. Stacy, I believe I've answered your question. Pomfa, it's over 2 years now I've seen you here. So for you to show up now means you have a problem. That is why you are showing up to answer question, because it's over 2 years I've seen you on my show. All right. It's over 2 years now. I know my dedicated followers. So for me to see you now, it means there's a problem. There's a problem. That is why you show up. So we're going to answer the third question. All right. I'm going to answer your question, Pomfa, later on towards the end of the program. I'm going to answer your question. Okay. So if you stay around towards the end of the program, I'll answer your question, what you're asking me now. So let's deal with the number 3 questions. Okay. Number 3 says, can you control type 2 diabetes with diet alone? Okay. Can you control type 2 diabetes with diet alone? The question is yes, but. Yes, but. You can control your diabetes with diet alone, but there is something you have to add to that diet for it to work. As I said, there are thousands of people that are on dieting, they are not on medication, and they are controlling their sugar level, and they are living a normal life. Okay? They use dieting, but dieting cannot get you to that goal of stabilizing your sugar level. Okay? Dieting alone cannot get you to that goal of stabilizing your sugar level. So even though you are dieting, you need other things. You need other things Just hold on. Somebody sent me something. I'm trying to figure out. All right, I've seen what you said. So dieting is not the only thing you need. You can stabilize your sugar level with dieting, but that is not the only thing. Okay, it is not all about food. I've said it. I posted it somewhere else here. Let me see. Let me go back. Yeah. Yeah. So So why I say it's not all about food. Okay. This is what you have to add to that dieting. I want you guys to read this. Why I say it's not only dieting. Dieting is one thing, you can control it, but you have to add something for you to achieve your goal. So I want you guys to read this. Okay, read it, and then you guys are going to understand. It is not just about food either. I'm talking about dieting. You are eating a healthy diet food. Okay, that cannot get you to that goal. Exercise have to come in. Stress management have to come in, because remember, stress also spark up your sugar level. So exercise have to come into your dieting. Stress management have to come into your dieting. Sleeping very well have to come into your dieting, and then your medication. All these have to be added to dieting for you to control your type 2 diabetics with diet alone. Okay? And as I said, you don't need to change everything at once. We're talking about your dieting. So once you are diagnosed with diabetics, you are still overwhelmed. You are still shocked. You don't even have a clue. You have to gradually phase out all those food that you are not allowed to eat gradually, and then start phasing in those type of food you are allowed to eat. Because the more you understand the things you're allowed to eat, you'll be phasing them in and then removing the things you don't allow to eat. So that comes about your habits, your eating habit, or your eating patterns. So to answer your question, can you control type 2 diabetes with diet alone? That is what I just put. That is the answer showing on the screen there. You have to add these things for it to work. Okay. Let's go to okay, Nancy, you're welcome from Sierra Leone. Pomfa, you say you lost your job, so something to come. I can ever buy data. I lost my job, so things become that bad for me. Oh, sorry to hear that. I can't ever buy data for following. Sorry to hear that, Pomfa. Sorry to hear that you lost your job. All right. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, Pomfa. We are going to all right. Sorry about that, Pomfa. Let me see what he says. He said, Pomfa says, after working out for 2 hours, I just feel like drinking water. After drinking water, I don't know what happened to me again. Only for same thing, I discover people around me put water on me. So what caused this? They said my sugar level was 5.1. I have a problem with sleeping all time and sleeping the moment I take my drugs. You have a problem with sleeping, and then I have a problem sleeping. I have a problem with sleeping all time. I'm sleeping the moment I take my drugs. Okay. All right. Pomfa, Nancy, you're welcome. After 2 hours. You have your question here comes in twofold. They say after working out for 2 hours, I just feel like drinking water. After drinking water, I don't know what happened to me. Again, only for some time, I discover people around me put water on me. So what caused this? They said my sugar level was 5.1. Okay. And then you say you have a problem with sleeping, and when you take your drug, you sleep. All right. Pomfa, your question comes in twofold. Princess, I'm going to answer your question. Pomfa, are you still there? Pomfa, are you still there? Because I want to answer your question. I want to make sure you are here so I can answer your question. Pomfa, are you still here? I want to answer your question, but I want to make sure you are here. Can you confirm if you are still around? I want to answer your question, but while I'm waiting for you to confirm. Okay. Listen. You asked two questions. From what I read here, you have two different questions. Now, your first question is: you work out for 2 hours, and all of a sudden, and I just feel like drinking water. After drinking for 2 hours, you are working out after working out for 2 hours. When you say working out for 2 hours, are you talking about exercising, or you are just walking on the street? Are you talking about exercising? But let me just assume that you are talking about exercising. Okay? If you're a diabetic, I want you guys to listen. If you're a diabetic, okay, don't copy me. I'm answering Pomfa question. Okay, this question on the screen. She asked two questions. Let's deal with this question, and then we'll go to the second question. Don't copy me, please. I know I posted some video about exercising in the gym. Do not copy me. I can go for 2-3 hours in the gym exercising and still feel okay. Okay, you cannot copy me. I've been doing exercise right from when I was a kid. I've been playing soccer. I play professional soccer. Okay, right from school, and then retire from playing soccer. So do not copy me. So I built my body right from when I was a kid. Intense exercise. All right. Now, if you are a diabetic, you cannot do an intense exercise, like a rigorous, intensive exercise, if you're a diabetic. First of all, before you exercise, take your blood sugar reading to know the sugar reading before you start exercise. And when you finish exercise, take your sugar reading again. Now, if you're a diabetic, you cannot do an intensive exercise like doing exercise like Pomfa is doing exercise for 2 good hours. You can't. You can't, because if you do an intensive exercise, that can you can experience hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia is when your sugar level drop all of a sudden. And when you get rest, you pump up again. So Pomfa, what happened was, for you to do 2 hours exercise, maybe you have been doing intensive exercise for 2 hours, that your sugar level all of a sudden drop. There's a sharp drop that you fainted, or you see people coming around you. You see all of a sudden you see people around you. That's what happened at that particular time. So you cannot do an intensive exercise if you are not used to it. So what happened was, you are doing 2 hours exercise and you're diabetic, and your sugar level just dropped all of a sudden. Okay? Drop all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden you realize that people were around you. People noticed something around you, and that's why they came around you, and then you got a break. So what happens is that when you are doing an intensive exercise, there's a level of exercise you're going to do that your sugar level is going to drop all of a sudden, that you won't recognize where you are, that somebody needs to give you water, or they start fanning you. Okay? Then that time that your sugar level drop, It's not like it's too low. It's going to drop. By the time they give you water or they start finding you, your sugar, and then you test your sugar level, it comes to 5.1. You say, why would what happened? No, that time you stopped exercising. That time you stop exercising, that you sit down or people giving you water or they're finding you, your sugar level comes back again to where it's supposed to be. Because now you've stopped that intensive exercise. Okay? So what we experience that time as a diabetes, you cannot do intensive exercise. That is why I recommend you guys do something like a yoga exercise. Take a small walk, 20, 30 minutes walk, 1 hour walk, and come back. But you cannot do an intensive exercise. That hypoglycemia is going to come and your sugar level is going to drop, that all of a sudden you collapse or your eyes start turning you, okay, that you needed to drink water. Immediately you stop doing that intensive exercise, your sugar level is going to come up again where it's supposed to be because you stop doing what you are doing. So do not do that intensive exercise if you're diabetic. Do 45 minutes, an hour. If you want to stretch it to an hour, but do not do intensive exercise, okay, because you're going to experience that hypoglycemia, that the sugar level drop. So that is what you are experiencing that particular time, that all of a sudden people are around you, you drink water, and then you check your sugar level, it was 5.1. Yes, that time you stop doing what you are doing, your sugar level comes back where it's supposed to be. And if you have continued doing that intensive exercise, then your sugar level is going to drop lower, that you are going to collapse and faint, and they are going to rush you to the hospital. But because you recognize that something is wrong with you, and then you stop and you drink water, and then all of a sudden you see that, you know what, my body is not okay, there's something I'm feeling. Because we're able to recognize that symptom and then stop. But intensive exercise is not good for diabetes. You cannot do intensive exercise. 2 hours, 3 hours, no. You have to be mild exercise, 45 minutes. If you want to stretch it to an hour. So what happened was, as a diabetes, you can do 30 minutes every day. Okay, 30 minutes exercise or 45 minutes exercise. The following day, do another 45 minutes, but you cannot go do 2 hours all of a sudden go. No. As a diabetes, you cannot do an intensive exercise. You are going to experience hypoglycemia. So that is the answer to this question. So that is what you experience. There's a sharp drop in your sugar level when you are doing that intensive exercise. And once you stop, your sugar level comes up to 5.1. Now let's go to second question. You says you have a problem of apnea. You can't find the sleep. And when you take your drug, you sleep. Now, one thing I want you to tell me, Ponfa, how many drugs do you take for your diabetes? Can you tell me? Do you have are you hypertensive? Are you taking high blood pressure drugs or cholesterol drugs? Ponfa? Are you hypertensive? Do you have a high blood pressure issue? Are you taking any drug for high blood pressure? I want to know before I answer this question. Princess, I'm coming to answer your question. Steve Chan, you are welcome. Okay. But Ponfa, can you tell me, are you hypertensive? Are you taking any drug for high blood pressure or cholesterol apart from your diabetes drugs? Okay. So you're only taking diabetes drug. What drug are you taking? What drug? What's the name of that drug? Okay, listen, why I asked you, are you taking any high blood pressure drug or cholesterol? Like, for instance, if you are taking, if any of you that is taking amlodipine, amlodipine for high blood pressure, amlodipine can make you to sleep. Anytime you take amlodipine drugs, it makes you to sleep. So sometimes, if you are taking diabetes drug and taking high blood pressure drug or cholesterol drug, most of those high blood pressure drugs make you to sleep. Okay, example is amlodipine. Amlodipine will make you to sleep once you take it. Okay, that is why doctors are going to recommend you, if you are taking amlodipine, don't take it during the day or when you are driving or when you're operating a machine, so that you don't go and mistakenly put your hand inside a machine and get your hand sliced out. So, if there are certain drugs, certain high blood pressure drugs or cholesterol drugs that if you take it together with your diabetes drugs, is going to make you to sleep. Now, if you take your drugs and then you sleep, it depends on the type of diabetes drug that you're taking. Some diabetes drugs, okay, will make you to sleep, but it depends. Not all diabetes drugs is going to make you to sleep, okay? But I'm talking about most high blood pressure drugs and cholesterol drugs is going to make you to sleep once you take them. Then metformin 1,000 2 times a day. Okay, you're on a high dose. You're on a high dose 2 times a day. All right. So that is why you are falling asleep. Okay, so now I know. So metformin, yeah. So that metformin is going to make you to sleep because you're taking 1,000 2 times a day. Okay, so you're on a heavy dose. So that is why that drug you are taking is one putting you to sleep. Okay, that is the drug that is putting you to sleep. But if you are taking any high blood pressure drugs, yes, then that's why I ask you: are you taking any high pressure drugs? But because when you're on a high dose and you're taking it twice a day, that is why you are falling asleep. Okay, so the drug you are taking. So what I'm going to recommend to you to do, so that I can answer Princess question. Now, you are taking metformin 1,000 2 times a day. Because one thing with metformin, why I say that is why that metformin you are taking make you to sleep is that if you are taking metformin 1,000 2 times a day, it might cause you to have, that is one thing with metformin, it might cause you to have vitamin B12 deficiency. Okay, it might cause you to have vitamin B12 deficiency. So I would suggest go to your doctor, ask your doctor to check if your vitamin B12 deficiency, if you have a normal vitamin B12, because one problem with metformin is that it's going to cause you to have low vitamin B12 deficiency. And once you have that vitamin B12 deficiency, it's going to force you to sleep, cause you to sleep. So if you are experiencing sleep when you take these medications, I would advise you to go back to your doctor and see if your vitamin B12 is normal. If it is not normal, then you can ask your doctor to change that medication for you. Because one thing that I noticed with metformin, the side effect is that it's going to interact with your vitamin B12 and cause you to have deficiency, to have low vitamin B12, deficiency that is low. And once you have low vitamin B12 deficiency and you're taking metformin, it's going to cause you to sleep, tiredness, and then sleep. So I would advise you to go and see your doctor to see why you are feeling sleepy all the time once you take it. And I'm going to be 80% sure that it's causing your B12 to go low. And once your B12 go low, it causes you to sleep. Okay? So, I will advise you, Pomfa, to go back to your doctor to find out if it's affecting your vitamin B12 deficiency. All right. So that's what I'm going to suggest. All right. So I hope I've answered your question. Let me, Pomfa, I hope my answer have answered your question. I'm going to answer. I have 2 questions waiting for me there. I believe I've answered your question on that. Let me see. Eric, you're welcome. Princess, let me answer. Sorry about that. Let me answer Princess' question. Princess, you says, Princess, are you still there? And I have Nancy. Nancy is still here. Nancy, I'm going to answer your question. Let me finish answering Princess, are you still here? Let me answer your question. Princess, okay, let me see if she's still here. All right. Okay. You asked diabetics ice cream. Diabetics ice cream is good to eat. No, I said it. That's what I said. You can, if you're diabetics, you can't take ice cream. That is one thing you have to avoid. Avoid ice cream. Okay. Ice cream is something you don't have option. Okay. Avoid ice cream at all costs if you are diabetic. Okay, that is one thing you have to avoid. There is no option to limit. There is no anything option to limit. Avoid ice cream at all costs. If you're diabetic, there is no option to say, okay, let me limit taking of ice cream. No. Ice cream is not good for diabetics. Too much sugar in it and a lot of carbohydrate. So avoid it at all costs. Okay. That's Princess. I believe that answer your question. Let me go to Nancy. Nancy said, Nancy, are you still there? How would you know you are type 1 diabetes or type 2 diabetes? Nancy, are you still here to answer your question? All right. You were asking about how would you know you are type 1 diabetics or type 2 diabetics? Well, if your doctor is going to tell you, if you are type 1 or type 2 diabetics. Okay. So that is why once you go for a test, it is your doctor to tell you once the result is back that you are type 1 or type 2. Because the numbers are going to say what you are feeling. Now, so that is the answer. If you're looking for answer, how do you know if you are type 1? For instance, if you are experiencing symptoms that you don't know, like for instance, you are urinating all the time, you are urinating frequently, you are rushing to the washroom every second, and you say, okay, why am I urinating every second? And you go to your doctor, the doctor says, okay, I'm going to send you for a blood test. Doctor does not know whether it is type 1 or type 2 until the result comes back, and your doctor is based on the numbers. The doctor will be able to tell you either type 1 or type 2 diabetes. Okay, so doctor is going to tell you right from when the result is there, either you are type 1 or type 2 diabetes. The one thing you have to understand is that type 2 diabetes is a combination of insulin resistance and insulin production. Okay, so sometimes you may have enough insulin, but your body doesn't know how to use it correctly. Or sometimes your body cannot produce enough insulin that the body requires to regulate the amount of sugar level in your bloodstreams. So that's something about type 2 diabetes. So to know whether you are type 1 or type 2 diabetes depends on your doctor that send you on a blood work. But I cannot just look at you like this and say you are type 1 or type 2 diabetes. No, until you have gone through the test and then the result comes back based on the numbers in presence of the doctor, he or she is going to classify you either type 1 or type 2 diabetes and then educate you on how to live with it for the rest of your life. Okay? Now, there are symptoms for diabetics. There are the symptoms of type 1 and type 2 diabetes are similar. There's no difference. There's no difference in type 1 or type 2 diabetes. They are almost the same thing. Okay? But the only thing is that type 2 diabetes always deal with higher sugar level. Okay? Type 2 diabetes always deal with high sugar level. You are struggling all the time. Your sugar level is always high. That is type 2 diabetes. Now, type 1 diabetes is most of the time your sugar levels are fluctuating. They are high in 1 minute. In 1 second, is low. In 1 second, is normal. So most of the time, your sugar level is fluctuating up and down. But most of the time, your sugar level is always down. That is type 1 diabetes. And we call it hypoglycemia. So type 1 diabetes, the medical term for it is called hypoglycemia. Then type 2 diabetes is hyperglycemia. So the difference between type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes is that type 2 diabetes, you are dealing with always high sugar level. So you have to struggle to bring it down to the normal level. Type 1 diabetes doesn't have a constant range. It's always fluctuating ups and down. But most of the time, you are struggling to boost your sugar level up at the normal level, because most of the time it's going to be down, down, down. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it's come normal, but most of the time you are struggling to boost it up to the normal level. So that is the difference between type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. Okay, but the symptoms are similar. All right. So Nancy, did I answer your question correctly? Nancy, do I answer your question correctly so that we can go to the fourth question? Now, if you are newly diagnosed with either type 1 or type 2 diabetes, you probably don't need to start counting your carbohydrate immediately. Okay? You don't need to start counting your carbohydrate immediately. Instead, okay, you choose foods that are high in fiber and less in carbohydrate to start with, and then add protein to it. And then also go for healthy fat oils. So at the beginning, once you're diagnosed with diabetes, carb counting will not come in. What you have to do is to start looking for food that are higher in fiber and less in carbohydrate. Then later, as you go on, once you start understanding all the dieting, what you're expected to do, then you start applying to do carb counting. Carb counting is very important. It's also part of your dieting. If you don't count very well, you'll be struggling controlling your sugar level or stabilizing your sugar level. So let's go to number 4 question. Let's go to number 4 question. Number 4 question. Let me put it out there. Number 4 is, can people with diabetes eat variety of food in moderation? Can people with diabetes eat variety of food in moderation? Okay. One thing you have to understand is that moderation is the word that always pop up all the time. Oh, this doctor say, oh, eat in a smaller quantity. This doctor say eat in a moderation. My friends say eat in a moderation. My husband say eat in a moderation. But one thing is that, okay, that word moderation, it is very hard to define. What might be moderate to you might not be moderate to me. What might be moderate to this person might not be moderate to you. It's going to be very hard to define what is moderate consumptions. Okay. Now, to answer your question, can people with diabetes eat a variety of food in moderation? There are no food that are off limits when you have type 2 diabetes. There are no food that are off limits when you have type 2 diabetes. Okay? That is why I say to you guys most of the time, the carbohydrate that we're all talking about is not the issue. The issue is the quantity of the food that you eat. As I said, I give you, somebody asked me a question now, can you take ice cream? And I said, no, stay away from the ice cream. There's a reason why doctors are going to tell you, stay away from the ice cream. Because if I say, yes, you can go for ice cream, the question is not the ice cream itself. The question is the total amount of the ice cream you consume that is going to cause you havoc. So moderation is the word. But who can define what is the target level? What is that amount of food to consume to be classified as moderate? Because what I might consider moderate to me might not be moderate to you. So that's what I said. Or there is no food to you that is off limit if you are living with diabetes. They give you a little bit of playing rooms, but the question is, at what amount can you be disciplined to say, if I'm only going to eat 1 spoon and stay, I'm only going to eat 2 spoons and cut it off? Okay, so can people with diabetes eat a variety of food? Yes, you can, but at your own risk. At your own risk. And that is why I said in most of my video, like the way I handle people is the way this doctor or me would treat you will be different from the way doctors will treat you. Some doctors are going to give you a leeway to play with. But when they give you a leeway, you go and abuse it. And then you come back to that doctor. Doctor, you told me to do this. I do this. Why is my sugar level going too high? So that is why sometimes I try to be strict and tell you no. For instance, in ice cream, I tell you there's no alternative. There's no limit for ice cream. Stay away from ice cream. Some doctors are going to tell you, okay, take small ice cream. And then you go out of doctor's office, you go home, you see ice cream. Ice cream, I need ice cream. And they give you a cup of ice cream, you finish it. Oh, but doctor said take a small ice cream, so a cup is small. No, that cup contains maybe 500 more sugar than even what the doctor is referring to be small. So most of the time I say stay away from it. But if other food, can you eat other variety of food? Yes, but you eat it at your own cost, at your own risk. So normally I tell you, stay away from this food. Don't even try it. Because if I said go ahead and eat it now, you go home, instead of eating 1 spoon, you eat 4 spoons. And then tomorrow you see me and say, but you told us that day I should go home and eat. So now I ate what you told me to do. Why is my sugar level too high? Then you want to blame it on me. You don't need to blame it on me. I told you, eat it in a smaller quantity. It is left for you now to define what that smaller quantity is. And that is where carbohydrate counting comes in. You must, for you to balance, have a stable sugar level, you must eat a healthy, balanced diet. And that healthy balanced diet must include carbohydrate counting. You must eat the right amount of carbohydrate. It's up to you to define at what amount of carbohydrate for you to take. That carbohydrate is very important for you to balance your sugar level without medication, exercising. If you don't count your carbs very well, all the things you are doing is waste of time. So to say, can people with diabetes eat a variety of food? Yes, you can eat, but at your own risk. You have to define what is your own moderation. You have to define what is the level of the amount of carbohydrate are you allowed to take. If you eat more than you required, then your sugar level is going to go high. Because I'm the doctor, cannot be with you 24 hours to monitor you, to babysit you, to say, don't eat this, don't eat that. Oh, this is enough. It's not. You are going to determine your own risk. But the simple answer is yes. You can eat variety of food, but at your own risk. You have to define what is your own moderation. You have to define, are you following the carb counting? But can you eat variety of food? Yes. I eat variety of food. But I know the limits. I know the quantity. I know what I'm allowed to eat. I know I follow my carb counting to achieve that goal that I desire. And that is the difference between me and you, because as I told you guys several times, my sugar, for getting over 5, 6, 7 years now, my sugar level has remained consistently. It has never for one day creep up, because I know what to do at what time, at what quantity. I follow those rules, and that is why I don't even have any issue of complications. I don't even bother, because those complications cannot come to me because I'm following the delayed guidelines. So to answer your question, can people that eat variety of food? Yes, but you have to eat it at your own risk. All right. So if you know those things they ask you to avoid it. Than trying to tempt fate to say, okay, now that we can eat variety of food, let me go back to that my favorite food. Then you are tempting fate. You know that is your favorite food. You might say, okay, let me, no, I promise today I'm going to only take 3 spoons. That's my favorite, but I promise I'm going to. So, hey, you call your wife, bring me that food. No, I promise myself, you see this food, only 3 spoons. And then they put the food on the table. You take 1 spoon, you take 2 spoons, take 3 spoons. From 3 spoons goes to 4 spoons. Because that's your favorite. The more you eat it, the more the thing is entering your brain. You say, oh, 4 spoons, let me go for 5th spoon. You see how you start abusing it. And then at the end of the day, your sugar level goes high. You turn around and blame the doctor that tell you you can eat variety of food. No, it's at your own risk. So to answer the questions, yes, moderation is the word, but it is very hard to be defined. What might be moderate to me might not be moderate to you. So can you eat it? Yes, but at your own risk. Do you guys have any questions before we go to number 5 question? Let's go to number 5 question. If you guys have any question to this, let me know. Number 5 is, what are the most important diet changes for anyone new to type 2 diabetes? This is very important. This is the question, among all these questions, this is the question that I like most. What are the most important diet changes for anyone new to type 2 diabetes? Do you guys have any question? It's like everybody is gone. Everybody is quiet. I want to know who and who is still watching, because everybody is quiet. Who and who is still here? Before I answer the 5th question, I want to know how many of you that is still watching, listening. We have about 20 more minutes to go. I want to know how many of you are still here before I answer the 5th question. Who and who? I want you guys to announce your presence. I want to know how many people here. Nancy is here. Yetunde is still here. All right. Nancy is still here. Who and who again? Let's go to the next question. I want to see, I'm watching. Okay, 2 of you. Okay. What are the most important diet changes for anyone new to type 2 diabetes? This is among all the questions. This is the question that I love among all the questions. So let's do justice to it. Let's answer it together. All right, let's answer it together. Okay. One thing you have to understand. Okay, once you are diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, as I said in the beginning of the program, are you going to change your dieting? Yes, but it has to be in a gradual process. You cannot stop everything at once. you have to gradually, as you're understanding what diabetes is all about, you start phasing the things you're not allowed to eat, and then phasing things you are allowed to eat. Okay? Now, the most important changes for anyone with type 2 diabetes, newly diagnosed, okay, is that your eating pattern have to change. Your eating pattern have to change. That is one thing you have to do. Because, we are talking about lifestyle. Your lifestyle matters a lot. You might be diabetic today, not because it is something in your family. Maybe in your family, there's no even one person that have had issue of diabetes, but it started with you. It's because of your eating habit, your lifestyle. The way you've been eating in the past that have resulted you to be the first person in the line of generation of your family to be diabetic. So the most important diet changes anyone would newly diagnosed is your eating pattern have to change. That is where you have to start. Okay? And then your eating pattern will now determine if you're going to have stabilize your sugar level and also promote your heart health. It's very important. And I've told you guys, once you're diabetic, say for instance, today, they say you're diabetic. The first two organs diabetics goes to attack and destroy is your kidney and liver. Because you want to make your life short. It doesn't have time to wait for 2, 5, 10 years before you die. You just want to make it quick and smooth, that in the next 6 months, you don't live. So the first two areas it goes to attack is kidney and liver, to see if I can cut it short. All right. So changing your eating patterns plays a vital role. And what do I mean by changing your eating patterns is, in the past, you've been eating all carbohydrate food. You've been eating, drinking every kind of food, sugar, Coke today. You will stay in one place. You go to a restaurant. As soon as you order food, Madam, I need one Coke. Oh, I'm thirsty. Since morning I've been walking. You open the bottle of Coke, you put it in your mouth, bum, 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 bum. Within 1 second, you finish it. Madam, bring me another Coke. Within 2 minutes, you finish 2 bottles of Coke. Those are bad eating habits. Okay, Nancy, those are bad eating habits. Then madam, I need a pounded yam or cassava meal. You finish it. While you are eating, you drink another Coke. Those are bad eating habits because you have been piling your body. You've been piling your body with carbohydrate. So the first thing you have to do was change your eating pattern by eating now food that are high in fiber and less in carbohydrate. Okay? So changing your eating pattern is the first thing you have to do. And how do you do that is to identify that I have to eat more of fiber food and less in carbohydrate. Okay? That can also help you to manage your sugar level, manage your cholesterol issues, and also prevent you being hypertensive, going into hypertension. Because if you if you continue the same pattern, within a short period of time, you become hypertensive, you develop high blood pressure. All right? So you have to change your eating habits. That is one. Changing your eating habit is now identify that you have to eat more of fiber food and less in carbohydrate. Now, once you identify that, it's okay, my eating habit have to change, one. And underneath that eating habits, I have to eat food that are high in fiber, less in carbohydrate. Now, the third thing, while still deciding is, okay, what are those foods that are high in fiber that I have to concentrate now and less in carbohydrate? Remember, you still eat carbohydrates, but now it has to be less, far less than what you are doing before. Now, you have to identify, so okay, what are those foods that are high in fiber and less in carbohydrate? And that is when you start looking for, it's very long. Let me put it, I don't know how you guys can, okay. I'm going to put it in such a way you guys can understand. So let's go to So now you have to identify sources of fiber, okay, food that are high in fiber. So we are discussing the most important diet changes is your eating habits have to change. Okay? And then those eating habits have to include food that are high in fiber. So let's list them one by one. Okay? Let's list those food that are high in fiber one by one. Okay? So number one, let's go. Number one is this food. Okay? You look at whole grains. Okay? Whole grains such as oats, brown rice, whole wheat bread, and barley. And when we talk about whole grains, we're talking about millet. So that means whole grains, you got to stay away from cornmeal. You got to avoid corn, other food, you know, the one you want to swallow, you say, oh, you know, those corn flour, you know, the corn flour meal, you can use it as a swallow. You have to stop all those things. That is bye-bye. Yam flour, you know, pounded yam flour, you turn it to pounded yam, that have to go. You know, cassava meal, like gari, you know, cassava, you know those cassava you turn into gari, don't have to go. Bye-bye. Okay. Which one again? Semolina. Semolina, you know, Africa likes semolina. That have to go. Bye-bye. Because now you are bringing in whole grains. Whole grains is different. They are very powerful. They contain a lot of fiber, like millet. Example of whole grains, millet. Those are good. So you go for all this: brown rice, whole wheat bread, or brown bread, and barley. That's number one. Okay. Now let's go to number two. Number two, we're identifying those food that are. Number two is nuts and seeds. Okay. Nuts and seeds such as almond, pecans, pumpkin seed, ground flax seed, and chia. I think I told you guys about the experience I had with almond nuts. I told you guys the experience. Can somebody can somebody tell me? Let me see if you guys remember what I told you guys about almond, the experience I have. Can somebody put it on the comment section? Let me see if you guys still remember what I told you, the experience I had with almond. Can somebody put it on comment section for me to read? Okay, so number two, this nut and seed are fortified with fiber. Okay, sources. We're looking at our sources of fiber. But while we are waiting, I need somebody who have remember the story I told you guys as almond. I want somebody to put on the comment section. Let me put it here. Okay. He said almond causes me allergy. You are halfway there. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you are right. The burning sensation. Yep. The neuropathy I have on my feet. So that's it. You are right. So now what I said, almond. Okay. We are looking at sources of fiber because we are changing your habit. We are still answering question number 5. So I'm only just identifying. We are trying to identify because you are changing your habit. You are changing your eating habits. Okay. Now we are looking. You're going to be eating something rich in fiber, low in carbohydrates. So we are giving you guys example how to identify sources of fiber. Because you're going to say, okay, they say I should eat more fiber. What kind of food is fiber? That is what I'm doing now. Now, what I talk about almond. Okay, almond contains carbohydrate. All these things contain carbohydrate. Or even the whole grains contain carbohydrate. The question is the quantity, not whole grains is fortified with fiber, but it also contains carbohydrate. And that is why that portion control comes in. The size of the food comes in. Now, the story I told you guys about almond is why I start feeling that burning sensation was I ate almond one. I said, okay, I'm going to try something. I said, okay, today I'm going to eat one almond seed, almond nut. I eat one, I'm okay. It does not disturb me to count, and it's going to count towards my carbohydrate counting. I eat 2 the following day, I feel okay. Then the 3rd day, I eat 3 nuts of almond. It was a hell. That burning sensation come. It was a hell for me that I have to go to gym to get it out of my system. So what I'm trying to say to us is that almond is listed here. You also have to remember that these things contains carbohydrate. So while you are trying to identify almond fiber, you also have to make sure you eat them in a smaller quantity. Okay, so let's go to number 3. We're trying to know where you're going to get your sources of fiber. Okay, let's go to number 3. Number 3 is this. This is your number 3. Beans and lentils, such as chickpeas, kidney beans, black beans and red, black beans and red, brown and green lentils. Okay, so you can also get your fiber on any of these beans and lentils. Also remember, they also contain carbohydrate, but they are fortified with fiber. So also, what is going to come in when consuming all this food, plate and portion size matters. The smaller amount of food, the smaller amount of carbohydrate, that is not going to affect your sugar level. If you eat too much, the larger amount of food, the larger the carbohydrate, at the end of the day, is going to spike up your sugar level. But these food are fortified, they are your sources of fiber. Okay? As a newly diagnosed type 2 diabetes, what is the most important changes you have to do is changing your eating pattern, recognizing that you're going to eat more fiber and less carbohydrate. Now you are struggling to identify those food that can provide you those fiber. That is what I'm listing now. Let's go to number 4. Let's go to number 4. That is number 4 for you there. Okay. So number 4, we are talking about vegetables. Okay, including green beans. I think yesterday we talked about vegetables. Vegetables including green beans, peas, broccoli, sweet potato, and beets. I've been announcing this, that it is not white potato you need sweet potato. And I've told you guys the size of the potato you're going to. I even shared a picture of the size of potato. Okay, so these foods here can provide you your fiber, more of the fiber that you need. Let's go to the last one, number 5. Is your fruits. Now we're talking about fruits, including apples, pears, berries, avocado, kiwi, oranges, not orange fruit, oranges. Okay, we're talking about your lime fruit, lime or lemon, or your, what do you call it, your grapes. Okay, these are the things you need as the sources of fiber. Okay, now these are the things. At the same time, you also need protein. You also need protein. Okay, you also have to add protein on this, your fiber. Let's identify your sources of protein. What are your sources of protein? Okay, so now you know where to get your fiber. Let's look at the sources of your protein, because you also have to add protein to your fiber, and then you have to have your healthy oil. Okay, and then you have to have your carbohydrate. So where do you get your proteins? Let's look at number 1. Can somebody, what is the most popular way for you to get your protein? Can somebody tell me the most popular way? There's one popular way, recognized way to derive your protein, easily way. Can somebody put it on the comment section? So the sources of your protein, one is meat. Okay. One is meat. Go for lean meat, not the red meat. Lean meat. Let me correct it. Sorry, let me correct it. Because people are going to go for the red meat. Let me correct it. Look for lean meat. Lean meat is going to provide you the protein, not the red meat. So lean meat. Okay. Chicken, turkey, fish, and seafood. When you are going for chicken, do not go for poultry chickens. Go for the free range. Do not go for poultry chicken. Let me write it down. I see somebody. Okay. You say lean meat. Okay. You are right. Now, if you are going for lean meat, chicken, okay, on the chicken, okay, go for free range chicken. Okay, go for free range chicken. Avoid poultry chicken. Avoid poultry. Avoid poultry chicken. Go for free range chicken. You guys understand what I mean by free range chicken, right? You guys understand what I mean by free range chicken? Can somebody tell me the free range chicken, what it is? We are discussing the sources of protein. While Yetunde, you are right about lean meat. The most popular way when we talk about when you want to get your protein, the most popular way or the easiest one everybody understand, the quick way when you say, oh, where do you get your protein? Is number 2. Let me just list it. Number 2 is your egg. Eggs is the most popular way people understand. Egg give you that protein. Lean meat, you are right, but eggs, we all know that eggs give us proteins. Okay. Our number 3 is nut and seeds. Number 3 is nut, seeds, and nut butters. You can derive your protein from these ones here. Chicken that roam about in the compound, not eating feed. Okay, you're right on this one. Those are free range. Okay, so number 3 is nut and seeds for sources of proteins. You can get your protein also from nut, seed, and nut butters. The other one is beans and lentils. Number 4 is beans and lentils. You guys know about that one, beans and lentils. Number 5 is your soy product. You can derive your proteins from soy products, such as, number 4 is your soy products, such as tofu, tempeh, and soy beverages. You also get your proteins from this. So these are some of the areas you can get your protein, and also the areas you can get your fiber. So to answer that question, number 5 question, what are the most important diet changes for anyone new to type 2 diabetes is changing your eating habits. And once you are changing your eating habit, you have to identify what are those things that have high fiber content and less in carbohydrate. That is the beginning of the things you have to do. That's the most important changes you have to make if you are newly diagnosed with proteins. So let's round up. It's almost 2 hours now, so let's round up. Now, let's look at the general tips. I'm trying to summarize everything we just discussed now. General tips in terms of all the questions that we answered is in managing your type 2 diabetes is when you're managing your type 2 diabetes, number one tip is to eat your meals at regular times. Number one tips, okay? Number one is I'm not going to let me just say the notes I have here is too much. I can't be putting them down. The general tips in managing your type 2 diabetes is number one, eat your meals at regular times. That's number one tip. Eating your meal at regular times. Number two is add a snack in your meal. Okay, in between, adding a snack in between your meals. Okay, so what I mean by adding snack, somebody asked me that question yesterday. Adding snack in between meals. For instance, that's where the portion control is. You know, you're going to eat in a smaller quantity. So, for instance, you eat 7 o'clock in the morning, your breakfast, and you're going to wait another 4 hours to eat another one. So, in between 7 until the next 4 hours, you're going to eat snacks in between or fruits in between. You cannot eat a heavy food because if you eat another heavy food, it's going to alter your carbohydrate for that previous food. So, eat snacks in between your meals or fruits. Okay, to keep your sugar level in check. The number 3 is try not to skip milk. I've told you guys, try not to skip meals. As a diabetic, skipping meals give you the opposite reaction. Because what we understand that say we are fasting, we are skipping meals is to stabilize the sugar level. No, if you're a diabetic and you skip milk, it's going to spike up your sugar level. So avoid skipping meals. If you're a diabetic, stop skipping meals. Okay. Let's do something like this. We're discussing the general tips to managing type 2 diabetes. Okay, that's what I'm discussing. Okay, and number 1, I says eat your meal at eat your meal at regular times. Okay. Number 2, add snack if your meal will be more than 4 hours. Okay. So I'm trying to get number 4. I'm trying to get number 3. So number 3, try not to skip meal. Okay, I've told you guys, try not to skip milk. Okay, try not to skip milk. And number 4, eat slowly and enjoy your meal. Okay, number 4, eat slowly and enjoy your meal. Number 5, include source of protein with your meal and snack. And number 6, add more fiber sources to your diet. Number 6, add more sources to your add more fiber And number 7, add healthy fats such as olive oil, nut, seed, avocado, and fish oil. So add a healthy fat, okay, to your meal. Number 8 is that and the number 9, keep in touch with your medical doctor or medical professional. So those are the tips. Those are the tips of managing your type 2 diabetics. All right. So my time is up. So I haven't answered all those questions. Do you guys, anybody have any question? Because my time is up. I'm gonna be rounding up now. Do you have any question before we go? Any question? All right. So you guys have seen the questions on how to manage your type 2 diabetics. If you are newly diabetics, okay, what you expected to do in terms of your dieting, if there are going to be any changes, when to do the changes, how to identify what is the fiber you're supposed to consume, and what to stay away. So type 2 diabetes can feel complicated to manage, especially if you are newly diagnosed. There are a lot of advice out there, both helpful and not so helpful. So you don't need to change everything at once. Okay, think about your current habit and consider 1 or 2 small changes you could make to help manage your blood glucose level. If you need extra support, okay, consider working with a registered dietitian. Keep in touch with your healthcare professional advisor or your doctor or your physician. Over time, the way you manage your type 2 diabetes is likely to change, but gradually phase in the things you need and phase out the things you don't need, but do not do it at once. And once you have any confusion regarding your diabetic status, always refer back to your doctor. Okay, friends? This is where I have to stop today. This is where I have to stop today. Those that are joining us now will have to wait. When I download the video on the page, you guys can watch it from the beginning to the end and understand what we discussed. We dealt with type 2 diabetic questions. These are the questions when you are newly diagnosed as a type 2 diabetics, you ask your doctor certain questions. So I narrowed those 5 to 6 questions, and they're all pertaining about your dieting. As a type 2 diabetics, do you need to change your diet? And if you have to change your diet, what type of diet should I consume or stop consuming? Okay, can I control my diabetes situation without being on medication? Okay, these are the questions that I answered on today's video. So that is why I titled the video type 2 diabetes diagnosis and your question and answer. All right. So friends, I'm going to see you guys sometime. Tomorrow is Thursday. I'll see. I don't know if I'm going to be alive. I'm going to be live tomorrow, but if I'm going to be live tomorrow, you see me. If you don't see me tomorrow, then know that I'm preoccupied with work. All right. So keep watching the video. Keep sending your comments. All right. I read all your comments and your questions. And then subscribe to my page. If you've not subscribed to my page, go ahead and subscribe to my page. All right. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and then TikTok. All right. So today I'm going to leave you guys here. And thank you guys for watching with me today. And I'm going to see you guys when I'm live again. Keep watching. Keep subscribing. Stay blessed. And then have a wonderful night. Bye-bye.